attributed to Albert Einstein.
Can I tell something real quick? So I had this thing happen to me a couple weeks ago where it was a very negative, a boy in my town committed suicide, and my mind just wouldn't let the thought of this whole thing go. Like, I started to think about how connected we all were, and I felt connected to what happened and to his mom and his dad, and I just was, it grabbed me, and I couldn't stop the downward spiral of my thoughts. And then I said, I'm just going to try something. I'm just going to go into this thought. I'm going to go into this, it was very painful, go into this painful thought and see where the thought leads me. And it just led me nowhere. It kind of let go after that. It was almost like it led to just black, and then it was gone.
Overwhelmment will do that for you. When you focus upon something that is so different from the way your inner being focuses on something, then the feeling of overwhelmment just becomes so much that then you have an I give up moment. It's sort of like just a letting go, and there was the sheer discomfort of it was just almost like more than you could bear. And actually what you were doing was tapping into sort of what this person was feeling as he decided to let go.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
There's so much that we could say about whether that was a negative thing or a positive thing and all of that. But it's an interesting thing to talk to all of you, because on the one hand, we want to say to you that you are the creators of your own experience and you create through thought. And on the other hand, we want to say to you, you're the creators of your experience and you're really messing the experience that you're creating with your thought. Then we want to say, we want you to be better selective sifters, which means we want you to think more deliberately. And then we say, but in thinking more deliberately, we mean we want you to think thoughts that feel better. We don't want you to just find a thought and think it through. Most humans would rather have a negative thought. You did that. Most humans would rather have a negative thought than a moment of meditation where there is no thought. And the reason is because you believe that there is productivity and benefit and reward in thinking. And so somewhere in your moving through life, you've come to an opinion that it's lazy not to think and that it's lazy not to act. And so there's a defensiveness and a determination to prove your worthiness by digging in and working really hard and thinking really hard. So that's why we explain the process to you in the way that we do. Oh, you're here to do that, and you're here to sort, and you're here to decide, and you're here to conclude, and you're here to decipher, and you're here to make decisions about what you want. You're here to find those what I do want and what I don't want. But that's not all there is to the process. And so then we introduce you in a very strong way to who you were before you were born and who you still are. And we explain that your inner being still exists and that your inner being is still offering a vibration. And we awaken within you your conscious awareness of your own guidance system. My goodness, the reason I feel what I feel is because my inner being thinks this and I think this. And when my inner being thinks this and I think this, then I feel great. Then I feel exhilarated and empowered and sure. But when I think this and my inner being thinks this, I feel awful. But some of you are so stubborn. I don't want to think what my inner being thinks. Then won't I just be a puppet? Aren't I here to prove worthiness? No, you're not here to prove worthiness. You are worthy. You are already worthy. You are already fulfilling your reason for being here. It's all good. There is only love that is generated and offered to you from source energy. The universe is a kind and benevolent and loving universe. You are creators here to create for the pleasure and joy of the expansion. That's what it is all about. But you've been struggling long enough, and law of attraction has got hold of you in your struggle, that the struggle is frankly easier than quieting your mind. How can that be? You want to ask yourself, why is it easier for me to struggle? And why am I more willing to feel bad than to quiet my mind? This is a big question. Why am I more willing to struggle and fight with all things that are going on than to quiet my mind and find the satisfaction of the love of source flowing to me and through me? And the answer is because somebody convinced you that there is value in struggle. Early on in your life, somebody sowed that seed and you've been fertilizing it and getting it going, where you've come to believe that there is value in your suffering and struggle, and that there is no gain without pain. And that is such a flawed premise that it is time for you to let go of that flawed premise. There is no value in feeling bad. Feeling bad only means that you're out there on the bleeding edge without the benefit of feeling the fullness of your inner being within you, you see. Your inner being is always there with you. Feel for it. And eventually you'll get so you'll only be willing to think thoughts that do connect you with that, you see. And then, when you get into that place where you are so often in alignment and receiving a new thought and watching the benefit of the new thought, so that you're giving and you're receiving and you're giving and you're receiving and you're giving and you're receiving and you're giving and you're receiving, that's when you really click into who you really are. Life is supposed to be fun, and it's not intended to be hard. And if it is hard, you've been listening to bogus information. You've been listening to somebody. When somebody's not hooked up with Source and they're having a hard life, they're going to say to you, life is hard. They're going to say, life is hard and you need to listen to me. You can't be lazy about this because life is really hard. And if you don't dig in, and if you don't pay a big price, and if you don't work hard, and if you don't really focus, you've got to really stick with this. Life is really hard. You hear enough of that, and you'll try really, really hard to do something that is impossible. Until eventually you'll have that giving up moment where you'll feel the first relief, you see. And we don't want the first relief that you feel from this point forward to be when you have that croaking experience. And yet that's when it is for so many, because you're wadded up in thoughts that don't allow you the freshness of who you are. And so we think that we've said this in enough ways to you that we don't need to talk like this for the rest of this week. We think that you now know that you are the creator of your own experience and that life is supposed to be good for you. And we think that if you feel like struggling, go ahead and struggle, and we're not going to beat up on you for struggling, but if you're struggling, we want you to know that that struggle means one thing and one thing only. You're doing something that you don't need to do for a reason that is non-existent, because there is no reward for your struggle. And the reason that you know that there is no reward for your struggle is because it feels awful while you are struggling. That's the clue. And as long as you struggle, it's just going to feel bad, 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 and it isn't until you stop doing that that it's going to feel good. And then you say, well, how do I go about that? And we say, take 15 or 20 minutes and see what happens. 15 or 20 minutes and see what happens. Blessed are the meek, the easy, the happy, the joyful, the aligned, the tuned in, tapped in, turned on, the easygoing, the open flowing, the willing, the allowing, the glad, the happy. See how it goes? There is great love here for you. And for now, we are complete. So good. Okay.
Hi.
We are.
I didn't even have a question. I just love you so much, and my life is slowly and beautifully changing and moving, and now, like, the best thing that I can tell and the most important thing that I learned about myself being with you is that feeling good is important, and I really appreciate it.
Not only important, but something you can do something about, yes? If you don't wait until you feel too bad before you start trying to do something about it. Yeah. Well, if that's the only thing that you ever come away from any of this with, it's enough. It's enough. Managing the way you feel is managing your vibrational output, and that is the recipe for living happily ever after. And you must have the right balance of desire and belief going on, because a room full of people and you lit up like a rocket over there. In other words, it was clear to us that you were ready to have a chat, brief as it may be. Something more? You just keep living happily ever after.
I do.
Really good.
Thank you.
Really good. Really good.